Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining me once again for a little Magic the Gathering video there. Now this one is going to be a little bit different from the normal openings there. This is going to be one where we kind of know what most of the cards that we're going to get. And that's because a new set revealed out, and we want to take a look at the commander decks that come along with them there. And as you can see, I've already opened them up, but that's mostly because I wanted to make sure that everything was included with the order, and it has. So I wanted to just go through, take a look at these different commander decks that have come up with Dragonstorm, and, just kind of give some thoughts on it, take a quick peek at each deck there in turn, and we've also got the little sampler packs, though, we're not really expecting to get anything from those ones there. But as you can see, I have not yet opened them up because I wanted to just take a peek, show the true spirit of the Abzan, give a little bit of the Abzan symbol there. We got our little sample pack there. And, okay. So that looks like it's just going to tell us a little bit about all of the different characters there. Got our little deck box and a couple of little +1/+1 symbols. And the big important thing is going to be the deck in of itself. So, Abzan, white, black, and red. Siege Rhino trying to make it big there, and now they have gotten their new version of Siege Rhino out there. And who knows, maybe that will also make a big hit in Standard as well. But we're going to open up all of these at the very end. Just going to keep it in the corner there until we get there. We're going to have a bunch of our different tokens there, double-sided for Commander, because they want you to have everything in there. But we're going to get into the main stuff of everything there. Let's see here. I'll just thin this out a little bit because we're going to have a lot of planes. We're going to have a lot of these lands here. They're just really basic ones to be able to, run through Commander 1 there. We've got some new stuff from the regular Tarkir Dragonstorm Deceptive Landscape, letting you search for a plain, swamp, or forest. But basic one there also comes with cycling there, Jukabai, access tunnel, and it's looking like that's an actual creature there. So we're going to take all of these lands there that are not rares. I'm going to put them off to the side and just kind of see what we've got here. So first off there, we're going to have Felothar, the Steadfast, 1, a white, a black, and a green, the main commander for the set there. A 0/5 legendary human warrior. With each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, which already there you're getting a little of Doran the Siege, what is it? Not Siege Engine there, but Siege Tree or something like that. So it feels very reminiscent of that. Creatures you control can attack as though they don't have defenders, so you don't need something else to be able to get through if you put down your big bulky creature there. 3 and tap, sacrifice another creature, and you draw cards equal to that sacrifice creature's toughness. Then this card's equal to its power. So, ideally you want something like this, where its defense is high and its attack is 0. There, so I could definitely see this not only going with defenders to be able to create a lot of them there, because a lot of defenders don't cost a whole lot because they can't attack. So, you get a whole bunch of them there, and you can be swinging in for a whole lot of damage, or you could use this for some sort of aristocrat style there of things that have ETBs or sacrifice or death triggers there, so that when you do sacrifice them and you draw your cards, you discard your cards there, you're able to get it out. You could do a lot of ones where things are equal to each other, so that when you do, you're just cycling through your hand pretty much there, trying to get a whole bunch of stuff into your graveyard, which the black-green of Golgari really likes, whereas, like I said, the white-black of it there really, really likes that aristocrat. So it's pretty clear what it seems like this commander is looking to do there. And the other adjacent commander that we've got with it is Baator, Ancestor's Voice. Same thing, but with 2 instead of a 1 for the white, black, and green for the Abzan coloring. Legendary Spirit Dragon, that is a 3/5, has flying and lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, put a number of +1/+1 counters on up to 1 other target creature you control, equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. Return up to 1 target creature card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you lost this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so Baator is interesting because it has other types there. The +1/+1s definitely feel like more of the white-green ability to it, especially since it's gaining life, whereas the white-black there is kind of that median, and black-green doesn't really do a whole much there of losing life there, but it does a lot with regenerating creatures. So whereas Felithor didn't really seem to have quite as much in terms of the white-green, except maybe for the, larger toughness there. This one actually has an ability that kind of links in, especially since it also has a lifelink there. But, a slightly different strategy. You don't want to necessarily be gaining a whole lot of life if your thing is to do Felithor and trying to, discard no cards there. But, if you have cards you don't need, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of toughness in there. And it should be going through some of the new cards in the set there. Protector of the Waifs, 4/2 white for a 5/5 dragon with flying. When this creature enters or becomes monstrous, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments controlled by different players. Monstrosity 3 for 4 and a white. That actually seems very interesting because it seems a lot like, I think it was Return to Dust, which had been a staple in white, and now you kind of get it on a creature, except you can't target 2 things on one player's board there, but it does say up to, so you don't necessarily have to do this. So if it's you have one thing and your opponent has one thing there and that's it, you can choose to just do their one thing there. So, it kind of feels a little bit like that, Return to Dust on a stick there, which I think could be good there, especially since it's a dragon. Reunion of the House, 5 and 2 white, big expensive sorcery. Return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then exile Reunion of the House. Okay, so this makes me think of that one creature that has power equal to the amount of equal to its power minus the current life that you have. So you could potentially do, a trick where it's like, oh, I'll return this creature from the graveyard, but because it has like -20 attack, that means that I can then be like, oh, because it's got -20, in order to equal up to that 10, I can revive a whole lot more creatures. That's what I see with this one here. So if that card's not in here, that would be probably something I'd include in to try to work around with this total power 10 or lower. Jaws of Defeat, 3 and a black for enchantment. Whenever a creature you control enters, target opponent loses life equal to the difference between that creature's power and its toughness. Really good with Felithor there with the, big differences between power and toughness, so I like that. Tip the Scales, 2 and a black, sorcery, sacrifice a creature. When you do, all creatures get -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's toughness there. So because a lot of your stuff has a lot of toughness there, you could potentially get rid of a whole lot of things at once there. It really depends on what you've got on the board and if you're willing to get rid of it. But the main thing is that you do need to sack a creature in order to do it, where something like, God, what's that called there? It's the 2 and a black and a, 2 and 2 black. It's like Deluge something. that you pay life and you give everything -X. It's like mutilate or something like that. But I think mutilate is just a fixed like -4 or something, where I can't remember what it is there. But, you know, so it seems like slightly powered down of it because you need a creature. You need the creature's toughness to be high enough for it there. So, you know, new card there and trying to give a little bit more into it there because of the difference in toughnesses. Will of the Abzan, 3 and a black for a sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast it, you can then choose both. Always powerful there. Because we got like Juska's will and whatnot there. So I guess, you know, there might be making a whole will cycle there, maybe of single colors. Any number of target opponents each sack a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control and lose 3 life, or return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Overall, pretty good. You're getting rid of the highest power thing, specifically, you know, on the cards power level, and not just like, oh, you know, this is the biggest threat. But getting rid of the biggest power level there, and then you can also bring back whatever piece that you want there. For 4 mana, pretty good. Arbor Adherent, 3 and a green for a dog druid. That's really funny to me for whatever reason. 2 and a 4, tap to add 1 mana of any color, or tap to add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. Yeah, that's pretty busted, actually, there. You know, being like, oh, you know, instead of, you know, paying this 1 green for this, you know, Llanowar elves for it there, you save up a little bit more, and it's like, oh, I've got this thing with, you know, if you play your commander, you know, right after you put this down, it's like, oh, well, you know, like, if it's one of these two guys here, it's just like, oh, you know, I'm just going to get 5 mana of any one color. So, you know, you play out your commander, and then you're just like, oh, tap for 5 more. Honestly, I think that's a really, really good mana dork there, especially since you could put it into something like dinosaurs that could be pretty big there. You know, you get out something like Agalta, put it even in something like Hydras there. I think that this could work out really well of just getting a whole lot of extra mana out of nowhere. Canopy Gargantuan, 5 and 2 green for a 7/7 dragon, flying ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. Oh boy, ward making a little harder to interact with there, and then, you know, giving things toughness. So it's definitely showing through that toughness. Having high toughness is the thing that this deck is centered around there. It's each other creature, so this guy itself does not power itself up. Rampart Architect, 3 and a green for a 3/4 Elephant Advisor. When this creature enters or attacks, create a 1/3 white wall creature token with Defender. Whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, you may search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. You know, this is going very well in with Fellothar there. It's creating walls with Defender. The walls have higher toughness. They're going to be dealing 3. They can attack, and because it has Defender, when they die, you will be able to get basic land cards there. And it's whenever it enters or attacks there, so you can keep on getting these walls if you really want to there, swinging in, and you have essentially a 1/3 in the back to defend yourself afterwards. Okay, Tree of Redemption. This looks like a reprint there from, what was that? And it was originally an Innistrad card there. So 3 and a green. Defender, 0/13. Exchange your life total with this creature's toughness there. You know, if you really, really want to there, you know, you play this and you have Fellothar out there and you're swinging with something that has 13 damage onto it there. Or, you know, if you're able to exchange it beforehand and you're like, ah, yes, you know, I've exchanged it and it's now got 40 power. You're swinging with 40 power, though you're down to 13. So I do think that this is a great new representation of it there, because the Abzan were so into their trees that had all of their ancestors in it there. Not the strongest reprint, but I mean, with this sort of deck, it's pretty decent there. And yeah, I think that it's a good representation of it. Okay, black-green there. It kind of feels a little bit like Sidisi there rather than Abzan. Ikra Siddiqui, the Usurper, 3, a black, and a green for a legendary snake wizard that's a 3/7. Another big toughness there. Menace, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and you can partner with it. Okay, so another partner guy there. I wonder what the other partner that goes along with it there is, but yeah, you know, like if you've, it's another thing that goes well with large toughness. In this case here, it's gaining life equal to it, which I wouldn't really expect on a black-green to specifically do that, but hey, you know, I think that's interesting. Baldan Century Herdmaster there, 4 and 2 white for a legendary human warrior with 0/7, large toughness. During your turn, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, so, you know, same sort of deal. And whenever he attacks, up to 100 target creatures each get +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. What is going on with this? This is just like the 100-handed one where it's like, this can block an additional 99 creatures. Well, I mean, I guess you don't want to get more than 100 creatures out there, but, you know, if you've got your hand stacked up with things, then, you know, if you do the whole Fellothar there, you know, you attack in with your guys there, you can do your whole sack, draw a bunch of cards equal to a large toughness, and then they all get a huge boost there. I mean, I definitely see where they're trying to go with that there. That's a dangerous little combat trick there. But I wonder who this is based off of there, because I do see SLD, so this is based off of a secret lair. I'll have to look in to see what it is. I'm going to just put it like right here or something of what it ends up being, but you know, that's interesting that they're putting those in there. I mean, I don't think I saw that on any of the other cards there. That's interesting. That's certainly a way to get the secret lair, like the unique secret lair cards to get in there. Expel the Interlopers, 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. Again, having large toughnesses there is going to be good for that. Indomitable Ancients, 2 and 2 white just for a 2/10. You know, oh, you know, it's good at defending, except when you're swinging in for 10 with it. Rock Faithmender, wow, you know, toughness, 3 and a white for a 1/5 Rhino Monk with lifelink, and whenever you gain life, you essentially gain twice that much life instead there. You know, good for extra life gain. Shalai, Voice of Plenty, 3 and a white for 3/4 Legendary Angel. Flying, you planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control have hexproof, and you can do 4 and 2 green, put a +1/+1 in each creature you control, get +1s. Why is this a rare? I'm pretty sure this used to be like a uncommon there, so seeing this as a rare is a little bit like disturbing, upsetting there, especially since it's not like the most amazing thing ever. Yeah, you know, you can pay 1 and a white to make things that have defender attack as though they didn't have defender there, but so, you know, it's that. This is a wall with defender. You gain life equal to power, 1 and 6. Welcoming Vampire has, you know, larger toughness there. If something with 2 or less power enters, you draw a card. It only triggers once a turn, but, you know, a lot of stuff that you have has low toughness. This one, again, 4 and 8. It's good. 3 and 5. Instants and sorceries give you insects there. Salt formation. Creatures assign damage equal to its toughness. Defenders can attack as they don't have defender. All creatures you control get +0/+1. Hornet Nest, you know, has larger defense there and can make Insects if it gets dealt damage. Seedborn Muse has a larger one there, but untapping all the permanents you control there, lets you play a whole lot more stuff if you do. Sylvan Caryatid, another mana dork there with 0/3 Defender and Hexproof. Towering Titan there. I'm not familiar with this one. 4 and 2 green, giant, 0/0. This creature enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the total toughness of the other creatures you control. Sacrifice a creature with Defender. All creatures gain trample until end of turn. Okay, so just, it's another big beater where you put it down and it's just like, yes, because it's based off of toughness, I get a whole bunch of power and toughness. Sacrifice one thing with Defender and everything gains trample, and they're already dealing a massive amount based off of their toughness there. So yeah, that's a good one there as well. Anguished Unmaking, a little bit of targeted removal. Fabro Elder, get stuff equal to the color among permanents, and you can tap it to get 1 mana of each of your permanents there. It's automatically a 2/2, get 1 black thing down, it becomes a 3/3, and you can tap it for 3 mana. Dramoka, another form of protection where Dramoka herself cannot be countered, and your opponents can't cast spells on your turn, so you can attack in if you want and do anything that you want on your turn without any risk there. And with a lot of ways of getting extra mana, you can just play a bunch of stuff and try to win off of that there. Shedrick Silverquill, same thing, large defense there. It's got double strike to be able to hit with that. Beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each goes to a different player. Target player gets a 2/1 white and black Inkling. Target player draws a card and loses life. Target player puts a +1/+1 in each creature they control there. I mean, there's, depending on what you do, you can give yourself the best option. Sidar Kondo has flanking to make things that your opponent have smaller there. I guess this is the partner to the black and green one there. Creatures your opponents control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less. So in that case, there are a lot of your guys that don't have any +1/+1 counters on them there, like Fellothar. They can't be blocked because it signs the toughness, but it doesn't have any power in and of itself. Kolfiner's Urn, 3 mana for artifact. Whenever a creature with toughness 4 or greater is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, exile it. You may exile it. At the beginning of your end step, if 3 or more cards have been exiled with this artifact, sacrifice it. If you do, return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. So you can put specific things in there if you want to, and eventually bring them back. Or, if you've got a board wipe there, you could put this out, board wipe, and then put your 3 best things in there, and you just get them back. Staff of Completion there, coming back. If you've got ways of getting a whole bunch of mana over and over again, you could potentially, do this, get this one up, though it's probably not the greatest one that I see there. I mean, you don't really have stuff that wants you to kill your own permanents. Mana fixing there. You're getting 1 mana for 2 life. Proliferate is probably the... Proliferate in the drawing a card is definitely the best in this deck here, but it's probably not the greatest addition in it there. Weathered Sentinels, 3 mana for Defender, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Creature can attack players who attacked you during their last turn as though it didn't have Defender, and when this attacks, it gets +3/+3 and gains Indestructible until end turn. So with a lot of these cards there that let you attack as though it didn't have Defender, and you don't need to worry about this one here. It's, hey, I'm swinging in with, some for 8 damage. That's Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible. Nice. Some of the mana there, your basic Canopy Vista for white and green. Exotic Orchard, that kind of goes into a lot of stuff. Fortified Village, Refueling stuff. Isolated Chapel, Plains or Swamps. Let's see here, this is a slow land, having 2 or more lands, a little bit of mana fixing for white, green and white, forest and plains, scryland, 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 mana fixing there with black and green, woodland cemetery, forest and swamp, gold arcane signets, new design there, kind of looking very Jeskai-like and very Eastern Asian with the kind of wax seals that they have there. Soul Ring, looking like an encampment for the Mardu there. Command Tower looking like an Abzan fortress. Good old Nyx Fleece Ram there. One of my friend's least favorite cards there because I ended up beating the pants off of him when we did a pre-release in Theros, and I got a Nyx Fleece Ram, and it was the only reason I won, because I got it out turn 2. He never got rid of it, and I just gained so much life that it didn't matter that he was swinging into me. Slaughter the Strong. You want to make sure everything has 4 power or less, which again is good. Targeted removal. Wall of Omens. Defender and large toughness. Same thing with Wingmantle Captain. Behind the scenes, give your creatures Skulk. There, Blight Pile. There, I'm not sure if I know this one. 1 in a black, Phyrexian, 3/3 with Defender. 2 in a black. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures with Defender you control. This is really good with all of these stuff here. Feed the Swarm for targeted removal. Infernal Graph, targeted removal. Wall of Limbs. Defender Wall, a Boreal Grazer there, a 0/3, another wall that gives you mana based off of your defenders, defender that when this enters you get to replace it there, new art for Evolving Wilds there, which just kind of looks like good old Tarkir Starf, Jotty Offshoot Defender with, Defender Wall, essentially, gaining life, more Defender mana gain there, the new Sandstep Citadel artwork there, tower defense, giving things lots of defense, Wall of Roots, another wall, Wall of Blossoms, wall, Despark, targeted removal, indulging, Patrician, 1, a white and a black, Vampire Lord 1/4, flying lifelink at the beginning of your end step. If you gain 3 more life, each opponent loses 3. So this is good for that life gain deck with the kind of more aristocrat-y style there. Defender Wall, Signet, Swiftfoot Boots there, and another Defender there with high toughness. So it's very clear that this is definitely built more around Fellothar than it is Baator. There, Baator just kind of gives a little bit of extra benefits there of the, get life gain, make your thing stronger, lose life, return things from your graveyard to the battlefield there. Most of the stuff in here kind of has that sort of 1, 2, 3-ish vibe, especially a lot of these walls that you have there that are like I said, 1, 2, and 3, so that they're easy to get back there for yourself there. A lot of them dealing with Defender and gaining a whole lot of extra mana so that you could try to fuel it into Fellothar, get those extra cards, and then be able to play more stuff there. Overall, I think that it definitely is Doran Siege Tower, is it? Am I thinking of that? Doran the Siege Tower? It definitely has the vibes of that there. You could definitely take some of the things out there that don't really go as much with that if you want Fellothar. If you want to use Baator, I'd probably have more things that involve you losing... beginning and set put number of +1s another target creature equal to the amount of life you gained, equal to the amount of life you lost. Yeah, so I'd probably do a little bit more of a aristocrat style with Baator. I'd probably even likely take Baator out of the deck just because it doesn't really feel quite as good with Fellow Thar there. But yeah, I like the Fellow Thar door in the siege tower kind of strategy there of, large toughness, low attack, assigning damage as though it were based off of toughness, and just kind of going from there, getting a lot of walls that give you benefits. It's just kind of it's a strategy that we've had before, and this kind of just gives you a little bit more tools for that there. So up next, we're going to go into Jeskai there, which it feels a little bit strange with Jeskai there for me in how they kind of redid Narset, because it feels like a lot of time has passed. And what I mean by that is the design that they made for Narset makes her look so much older than every other version of her. And, we've seen her in Ikoria. We've seen her in War of the Spark. I can't remember if we saw her in the Phyrexian invasion there, or like All for One. I can't quite remember there. But I don't think that Dragonstorm is supposed to take place that much far afterwards there. Like, it doesn't feel like it's supposed to take like years and years and years afterwards, especially since how like Thunder Junction and all of that stuff, all of the recent in-universe sets have been feeling for it there. But she just looks like she's aged so much, and I don't know if that's because she's so sad about Ojitai no longer being there and kind of having to do all of this with the dragons there. But I don't know, it feels a little bit strange with the design there. But we'll go in and see what they do, because Narset usually deals a whole lot with non-creature spells there, as well as what the Jeskai do, so we'll see. Instead of being on two separate ones, we've got Shiko and Narset unified. 1 blue, red, and a white for a legendary human spirit dragon. 4/4 flying and vigilance with flurry. I think that's a new keyword for him. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell if it targets a permanent or creature, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy a spell this way, draw a card. Okay, very interesting. That flurry, I have a deck that does a lot of copying there, but the only thing that it has in common with this is actually, no, it's blue and red, because I think it's a teamer coloring that does it. So if there is some copying in here, there might be some stuff in here that's worthwhile for it. But that's what we're seeing right now, that we want to cast one thing, and then the second thing we cast, we want it to do twice as much of there. So, but so we'll definitely see what kind of stuff. So still kind of having a little bit of emphasis on those non-creature spells that you want to do there. And it's only if it targets a permanent or player there. So second spell is anything there that's a non-land. So if you play a creature as your second one, you're just drawing a card, but you ideally want to get those ones there. Elsha, Threefold Master. I'm pretty sure we had another version of Elsha that came out of one of these commander decks there from a while ago. Blue, red, and white for a legendary Jin Monk. That is a 1/1 with trample and prowess. Good old back to prowess for the Jeskai. Whenever Elsha deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess. So essentially just putting almost more of her out there. Not quite Monastery Swift Spears, because I believe that they were 1/2s, but you're just getting more guys out there. So if you're able to pump her up there in some way, whether it's the prowess or you're just hitting them there. I mean, if you've got Shiko and Narset out there and your second spell is a non-creature spell, you're pumping Elsha up twice. Okay. New cards there. Aligned Heart, 2 and a white for an enchantment with Flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a rally counter on this enchantment. Then create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess for each rally on it. Okay, so Narset specifically wants you to target a player or a permanent. Doesn't have to be you or one of your permanents, can be opponent's ones there. But this one here, it's just anytime you cast 2 spells there, you get a rally counter, you make a whole lot of white monks with it there. This, it goes along with both of them a bit more than kind of like Baator didn't seem to go quite as well with Felothar there. I mean, make the second one a non-creature spell there that targets something. You not only copy it there, but you get multiple prowess triggers for Elsha. You get the rally counter, you get more monks. Elsha deals damage, you get more monks there. So it kind of goes in with both of them there. Tempest Technique, 3 and a white, enchantment aura with Storm. You can get multiple of these, multiple copies of these if you've played additional ones. Enchant creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So this is a really good one there for, Narset there of the make this your second one. It storms up. You're casting it, so you make a copy of it there. And then the copy also storms off there. So each individual copy that you make from the original storm does not increase storm count at all, but it essentially will have storm and then storm again, but that's only if you cast it as your second one. So if you do it as your second one there and you're able to copy it with that, you'll get 5 of them out there. So you'll have 5. I mean, you can enchant the same guy if you want to there, but each one will essentially be giving +5/+5. It's the only enchantment out there. But we do have that one as an enchantment as well. Adaptive Training Post, 2 and a blue for an artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if this artifact has fewer than 3 charge counters on it, put a charge counter on it, and then remove 3 from this artifact. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy. That's good there. More copies upon more copies upon more copies. I want to get another one of these, a couple more there, because I think that that's really good in non-creature, obviously instant and sorceries, but, the deck that I have that's already copying stuff, it's a really good addition for that one there. Transcendent Dragon, 4 and 2 blue for a dragon with 4/3. Flash, flying. When this creature enters, if you cast it, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile instead of putting it in the graveyard, then you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Okay. So a very special counter spell on a stick there that then lets you do it. So if your opponent's going to play something really big, you can do it yourself if you want to. They're going to play their, what would you call it there? Like In Garruk's Wake, or, Rise of the Dark Realms, just something big. You can be like, no, I get to do that instead. I think that this is a very treacherous card to have in the hand there. Voracious Bibliophile, 3 and a blue, flying 3/3 dragon with flying vigilance. Whenever you cast a spell with 1 or more targets, draw that many cards there. Okay. Getting something there that, you could draw plenty of cards on it there. I think that's good. But you specifically need targeting things and not just each there. Caldera Pyromoth, 3 and 2 red for a 3/3 dragon with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, pull a +1/+1 on this creature. Then this creature deals damage equal to its power to target opponent. Okay. So again, with the copy things, but it's only when you cast, so it's not when you copy. So you cast a spell there, you want to just cast a whole lot of things there, and you're dealing damage and dealing damage, making this bigger and bigger. Has no protection, so that's probably the big thing that you have to find, but it does have flying, so you can deal quite a bit of damage, because, I mean, essentially anytime that you play an instant or sorcery, you are essentially attacking them. You are practically attacking them, because it just deals damage equal to its power. Transforming Flourish to and a red for an instant with Demonstrate. When you cast a spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. Players may choose new targets for their copies. Destroy target artifact or creature you don't control. If that permanent is destroyed, this way its controller exile card from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Then they cast that card without paying its mana cost there. Okay, so kind of having that Chaos Warp effect, except you don't put it back into their deck. It's just a destroy effect. So got to be careful around Indestructible and, you know, if they've got a lot of high-powered stuff in their deck. Okay, the next Will of the Jeskai, 3 and a red for a sorcery. Choose one if you control a commander. As you cast this, you may choose both. So one thing that I do see there is it says if you control a commander, not your commander. So that's the big thing. If you steal someone's commander, then, well, you can do both sides of this there. Each player may discard their hand and draw 5 cards. So that's may. So each player has the option of choosing. You don't get to choose for them, but you're going to use that when it's most convenient for you. Or, I mean, yeah, when it's most convenient for you, because it doesn't really matter what everyone else is going to do there. Maybe they want to fill up on cards and you can negotiate with them and say, hey, you know, do a little politicking. I'll give you some extra cards if you don't do your thing at me. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Flashback is equal to its mana cost there. That's not too bad either. I think I prefer the Will of the Absent a little bit better than that there, though. This is a little bit too expensive there for Nekusar. I would if it was 1 mana cheaper, I would do it in the Nekusar. Good old Vanquish the Horde, kind of what we saw there in Innistrad Remastered. Board wipe for you there. Narset's Reversal. Copy a spell. Return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for it there. So you can stop your opponent from doing big thing there, and you get to do it, and, you know, they've wasted their mana. Or you can pay 2 extra on one of your things there to do it, you know, twice, with basically meaning making it that you need 2 extra blue to be able to do it on this turn, and then, you know, you do it another one there. Dismantling Wave, you know, each opponent destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, or you can cycle it out, destroy all artifacts and enchantments on the field. There, you know, choose however you need it to be. So, you know, removal for enchantments and artifacts. Mangara to make it if, you know, guys attack you with a lot of stuff there, you get extra cards. If your opponents cast spells, you draw a card. I feel like this would have actually been a really good card in the Absent deck, because, wow, would you look at it, you know, larger toughness, you know, power is 2 or less. It's got lifelink to give you back life with Baitor if you want to, and it gives you a lot of extra card draw effects there as well. So, you know, it's probably fine in here, but I think it would be better in the Absent. Good old classic Monastery Mentor, Prowess, creating monks with prowess. I wonder what that sounds like. Ancestral Visions help you draw cards there. You know, it's Ancestral Recall, except you just have to wait a bit. Archmage Meritos, cast or copy an instant sorcery, draw cards, you know, drawing cards, returning cards back to people's hands with Baral's Expertise. Curse of Swine, it's removal there. Haughty Jin reduces instant sorceries and makes him powerful for instant sorceries in your graveyard. Lear makes your Yeah, makes your spells uncounterable, gives things flashback there, right? Replication, make a whole bunch of your best thing there, as long as it's not legendary. Counter things and just doing everything what blue likes to do. Electro dominance, do big damage, cast big spell for free from hand. Mana form Hellkite there. Creating big dragons with haste based off of the non-creature spells you get, and they leave, but swing in. Brawl in Kari Zev, you get to create Ragavan, the first mate Ragavan. They are not the really, really good one there from Modern Horizons 2. And essentially giving you Cascade, not Cascade, but, same thing that Electro Dominance does of, cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn. You may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it without paying its mana cost. And it's just like, that's nice. Good old expansion explosion there. You can do this there to try to get some cards and whatnot there, but expansion is definitely what this is for. Copying a whole bunch of stuff that it wants to do. Magma Opus. And I'm not a big fan of this card there. It's a lot of mana to go in, and it doesn't really feel like you're getting a whole lot out of it there. It's like it feels a lot like an ultimatum that, because it's only 2 colors there, they made the colorless a lot more, but it's just like, oh, 4 damage, you tap 2 things, you get a 4/4, and you draw 2 cards. It just doesn't give the same ultimatum effect, and it's just like, oh, you could discard this to get a treasure, and it's just like, I would rather just play with a different card there. I mean, if you're copying it, sure, copying it, you're getting a whole lot of stuff, but again, it's 8 mana to do it there, so unless you're reducing the cost, it's, I'm not, I have trouble wanting to do that. Prismari Command to kind of do what's best in the situation. You get to choose 2. Damage, get cards, but you discard cards, get a treasure, destroy artifact there. A braid is 1 and a red there, so, if you destroy an artifact, it's there, and then anything else that you do is just 1 blue. So, nice one there. Board wipe for that one there. The second one of the Strixhaven Dragon Lords there. Did not have this one, so I am going to read over it there. Velomachus Lorehold, 5 a red and a white for Legendary Elder Dragon 5/5 with Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus Lorehold's power from among those without paying its mana cost, and put the rest on the bottom. Free spell. Look through the top 7, find your best one there. Not too bad. It's just, it costs a lot, but it does have haste, so it gets to do it right away if you want to there. Ooh, Veyron, Voice of Duality. Very, very good one there. I really, really enjoy it. Cast or copy instant or sorcery. It essentially gets prowess there. So it gets prowess, but can also do with copying, though I guess, prowess is specifically any non-creature spell, so that affects enchantments, battles, planeswalker, anything that's just not creature there, whereas this one is specifically instant sorcery, but, it can be cast or copy, and then if it triggers an ability to happen, does it twice, which it does for itself, so you cast a spell, it gets +2/+2, yada, yada, yada. If you do the flurry for Narset, it copies it, triggers it twice, so you get to, if it's the second spell there that you want to copy, you can copy it twice, or you draw 2 cards there. Veyron is a very good card, and it's a good card with this deck for, both of these commanders here. Whirlwind of Thought, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. That's enchantment there, so yeah, you cast a non-creature spell and you replace it, and that's not too bad. And going into some of the lands there, Atakar Waste, Mana Fixing, Battleforge, mana fixing, Cascade Blast, mana fixing, you know, all of them there have a little bit of mana fixing, though they're, you know, a little bit slow. They've got conditions on them there, you know, they're, you know, not the biggest ones there, but, you know, it's nice to have them there. It keeps their prices low there. You've got the Scry lands as well. Young Pyromancer there, getting your elementals out, reducing cost of things. Definitely has that more Eastern Asian feel for it there. I kind of like it. You know, I'm very used to the Ravnica Goblin Electromancer there, but, you know, this is a good artwork too. Same Signet Soul Ring command tower that we did. Ooh, Ghostly Prison. Now that's a toxic card there, making it so it's difficult for them to attack you. Removal, compulsive research for extra card draw, consider for card draw, deep analysis card draw, card draw, card draw, card draw. A lot of card draw in here. I guess they want you to copy those ones really bad and get extra card draw. Targeted removal, card draw, and, you know, kind of fixing the top of your deck a little bit. Card draw. Oh, here's the Abrade that I was talking about there. Targeted removal there. Big Score, one of my favorite instants that came out of New Capenna there, because specifically with something like Narset or anything to copy it, it's the additional cost to cast the spell is discard a card. So if you copy this, it's not casting it again, so you don't have to discard more cards. So it's just, if you can copy it twice, if you can copy it once, copy it twice, you know, you're only having to discard one card, and then you're drawing 2 cards and drawing 2 treasures for each version of it you have. So with Narset, it's, hey, you make this your second card, you're paying 3 in a red, discarding 1 card, and you're getting 4 cards and 4 treasures there. And if you're able to copy that more times there, by all means, do it. It gets you a whole lot of stuff really, really quick. Curse of Opulence. Everybody gets more gold, incentivizes people from not attacking you. So that, along with, what was that one called there? The prison one there. Ghostly Prison, yeah. Really incentivizes people from not attacking you. Drawing cards. Gutter Snipe to deal just a lot of damage to everyone. Again, this is that Tarkirified one and not the Ravnica one. Mana Geyser, get you a whole lot of extra mana for all those extra cards you're drawing there. Put it on something that you don't want attacking you, and it's attacking someone else, and you get a treasure whenever it attacks because it's goaded. Ooh, Stormkiln Artist, another great one there. Casting or copying an instance or sorcery gives you the treasure, and it can get very big from it there. Another really, really good card for those treasure decks there and copying decks. You getting your Involving Wilds. New Mystic Monastery on a ship this time. Expressive Iteration. That one was definitely a good one back then. Looking top 3 cards. 1 into your hand, 1 onto the bottom of the library. Exile 1, and the exiled card can be played. Yeah, it's a good one there. Non-creature spell gives you a creature token there, and a couple of signets, Fellwar Stones, and Talisman to give you some extra mana there. So cohesively, this one does feel a lot more, well, these two go a little bit more together, and this is already based around a type of deck that I already do with copying a whole bunch of stuff, whereas the Abzan one was, hey, you know, I've got my big defenses store in there. So they both already have a little bit of space there. It's just, hey, you know, that's what it's there for. So I'm going to go on to the Sultai here. Take that out. Take that out. So I find it very interesting that my favorite color combination, blue and red, in Jeskai kind of has a strategy that I'm already doing, and there's some cards in there that I like that I'm interested in potentially putting in there, or, you know, making another version that might be more, you know, Narset related, because it's has the white in there instead, and kind of just gives a different feel for it. So let's get rid of all of these ones here. Alrighty, so looking at our first one there, Tival, 1 black, a red, and a blue legendary spirit dragon, 4/4 with flying. Whenever it attacks, mill 3, then return a land. Whenever 1 or more creatures leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token there. Kind of really feels like I want to put this with Lord Windgrace there, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of revival and bringing stuff back and wanting to get things in the bin so that you can delve them away or whatnot there. So, you know, we'll just see how it goes, just because it's milling things and returning lands there. Kotis, Sibthig Champion, black, green, and blue for a legendary zombie warrior 3/3. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs. Kind of giving a little bit of an escape vibe there. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control enter, if 1 or more of them entered from a graveyard or is cast from a graveyard, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Kotis. So, you know, having a little bit of that, you know, when cards leave your graveyard, though, you know, now that I'm seeing it here, because a land leaves your graveyard, you would get the 2/2 zombie on it there. So let's see some of these. Diviner of Mist, 4 and a blue, for a dragon, 4/5 with flying. Whenever this attacks, mill 4. You may cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard with mana value 4 or less without paying its mana cost. If it would be put into the graveyard, exile it instead there. Okay, you know, it's not from among the ones that you did, so if you've got a lot of ones in there, when this creature attacks, you can do it there. You know, hopefully you're getting that there if it's not gone. Afterlife from the Loam, you know, big joke on Life from the Loam there. Big one there, 5 and 3 black, but it sorcery, but it does have Delve, like I said, to get things away. For each player, choose up to 1 target creature in that player's graveyard, put those onto the battlefield under your control, and they're zombies in addition to their other creature type. So for a good old 3 black, you get the best card from every player's graveyard, and it's a zombie. Oh my, you know, cards left my graveyard, I also get the zombie. Oh man, those cards were from graveyards, you get extra, or no, they're not. Let's see here. If 1 or more entered or was cast from the group. Yeah, so then you also pump up Kotis as well. So that's a nice little revival there. Tival's Judgment, 3 and a black enchantment. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Draw a card, treasure, or zombie token there. So, you know, you're consistently getting that with him there if you're bringing stuff out. Welcome the Dead, 3 and a black sorcery. Draw 2 cards, discard a card, lose 2 life, create X tapped 2/2 black zombie druid creature tokens, where X is the number of cards that were put into your graveyard from your hand or library this turn, and you can flash it back. So, you know, if you've got a lot of stuff that went in there, you can make a whole lot of zombies if you want to. So, but it's very situational. You need to have a good turn where you've put a lot of stuff into your graveyard, either by discarding them or from your library there. Floral Evoker, 2 and a green for a 2/3 Snake Druid with landfall. It gets +1/+1 counter on it whenever you have a land. Green, and discard a creature card, return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Bringing stuff back there. Steward of the Harvest, 3 and a green for a 3/3 human druid. When this enters, exile up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard. Creatures you control have all activated abilities of all land cards exiled with this creature there. Interesting. Now, I believe that mana abilities of the, like, tap and you add mana technically work for that there. So you get that, but I'm sure that a lot of these lands also have special abilities on them as well. So we might have to go through the other ones as well to see what they have. Okay, the green Will of the Sultai, 4 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one if you control a commander. You can cast both instead. Target player mills 3 cards. Return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature works in the number of lands you control against trample. So, you know, it synergizes there. You bring back some lands. You make one thing really big there. Probably my least favorite of the ones so far. And I believe that this card is one of the big ones there from the set. Colossal Grave Reaver, 6, a black and a green for a 7/6 dragon with flying. With whenever this enters or attacks, you mill 3, and whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put one of them onto the battlefield. Yikes. You mill a whole bunch, and you're like, I'm going to get this one out. I'm going to get this one out. So with Taval, it's like you mill your 3 cards, you return 1 land from your graveyard, but, you know, from among them there, if you do have a creature, that creature is going out there as well. So pretty good. Redesign of Gravecrawler there, making it really easy to come back. So if you want to, and you're making a whole lot of zombie tokens, so it's really easy to have the other zombie there. But, you know, coming back out, you know, you get the zombies from Taval, you get the trigger from Codis there, and you have something if you want to aristocrats this out. If you need to sack something, sacrifice the Gravecrawler. If you got like a land that has a good thing there with this Steward of the Harvest there, and you're like, oh, you know, I want to sacrifice something. Well, this Gravecrawler has the ability of that land there, so get rid of it. Play the Gravecrawler again, because it's only 1 there, and you can just do it over and over and over again as long as you got the mana. So that's nice. Life from the Loam there, with the Dredge getting things in, returning lands. Casualties of War, you know, a lot of targeted removal there. This also is a little bit of targeted removal on a stick there. River Kelpie, things enter from a graveyard, draw a card. Cast a spell from a graveyard, draw a card, and has persist there. So, you know, a little bit of card draw engine there. Returning things back with Dothi Voidwalker, Disciple of Bolus, drawing cards, gaining life there. A little bit of Junji, the Midnight Sky, gives a little bit of death effect. So another one that you're like, yeah, you know, let me aristocrat it there and then bring it back somehow. There, Lethal Scheme, a little bit of target removal. Living Death, kind of just a finisher in some ways there, a little bit of a board wipe. Lord of the Forsaken, I'm not familiar with this one there. 4 and 2 black for a 6/6 demon with flying and trample. 1 black, sack another creature, target player mills 3, pay 1 life, and add a colorless. Spend this only to cast a spell from your graveyard there. Okay, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you're casting from the graveyard is probably Delve, so if you want to, like, not remove cards there and you want to pay life instead, you know, I guess that's one way to do it there. You know, you'll probably be milling yourself. Destroying creatures, bringing something back, Necropolis Fiend, you know, trying to do a little bit of target removal, but, you know, it's delving itself to get out there, but you're removing a whole lot of stuff, so probably not the thing that I would have put in there for Delve. Not just Gear Hulk, targeted removal, Obnixilis there, you know, a little bit of landfall with a lot of these things that actually bring a whole lot of land back there, making people lose life and making them stronger. Tassiger, really putting things that, you know, really limiting things that you do and having things really good to bring back there. Woe Strider just has a sack effect on it there to get rid of things like the Junji or the you know, anything that you want to try to bring back, like the Gravecrawler there. You know, if it escapes, it gets +2/+2 counter on it. Yeah, so escape allows it to come back there if you wanted to. Avenger of Zendikar, you know, a lot of lands, you get a lot of tokens, play more lands because it's got landfall there. So that's what it's seeming like, is that this is a, you know, graveyard-centric deck that revolves around a lot of landfall triggers there. You may play lands from your graveyard. This gets more powerful based off of your lands, and return 2 lands. Shigeki, you know, return him there, and or return cards there. Consuming Aberration, you know, is based off of number of cards in your opponent's graveyards, and then you know, makes them mill a whole lot. Gerard, you know, sacrificing lands to bring stuff back to your hand. Oh, but you're just bringing the cards back, the lands back anyway, and making all of your landfall triggers there. Lord of Extinction, you know, is just a big dude. Marin brings stuff back. Command Beacon, you know, protect your commander and make it easier to cast. Crypt of Agademe, you know, extra mana for each black card in your graveyard. Mana fix, return this card from your battlefield for your graveyard, so it comes out of there. You know, mana fix, mana fix, mana fix, mana fix, mana fix, mana fix, mana fix. Essence Anchor, the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1, and then tap, create a 2/2 black zombie druid. Activate only during your turn and only if a card left your graveyard this turn there. Okay, so I mean, a lot of stuff does that there. Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Command Tower, Forbidden Alchemy there to, you know, mill yourself a little bit there and draw. Landfall trigger, there's the big one there. Treasure Cruise, really easy, draw 3, give everything flying. Oh, you want this in your graveyard. Bring stuff back, easy way to bring stuff back. Mill yourself, removal there. Whenever a card leaves your graveyard during your turn, draw a card. You know, so a little bit of draw engine there. Mill yourself there. If whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, for the first time, create an insect. So, you know, token generation and, you know, mill, both ramp, mill, get your lands out, you know, Opulent Palace, ramp, mill and ramp, targeted removal there, bring stuff back multiple times, a little bit of, what do you call it there? You know, a little bit of draw, a little bit of mill, targeted removal, mill, and mill. So I want to see what some of these other lands do. Sacrifice it and draw 3, discard 3. So I mean, if you had a if your Gravecrawler had that there, I mean, it'd have to be out because it's a tap effect there. So, you know, it'd have to have haste. That's mana fixing. You could do that there to, you know, sacrifice out your Gravecrawler to get a basic there. You could have, you know, them tap for multiple there. Return target creature card to your hand there for it. Search for basic lands. There. So, you know, there's a couple there, but you'd want to have something that does more. So, you know, I'm still trying to figure out the best to do with graveyard effects there, but, you know, this one seems good for what it does. It definitely seems like it needs a lot more potential upgrades than the other two do. But I think it works well with each other there. It definitely has a big synergy, emphasis on trying to put things into the graveyard, bringing them back out, and then, you know, getting some benefit off of that there. So, move on to Mardu, which my friend is very excited about there, and I believe that it should have some myriad effects there. So let's see what it is. So far, Jeskai has been the only one that combines up the dragon as well as the Khan there, but Zergo and Narset, I believe, are the only two that come back to be Khans after, you know, being Khans in the OG block. All of the other ones are new Khans there. Okay, so those out. And, okay, Dragonstorm render. Red, white, and black for legendary creature Orc Warrior with Mobilize 1. Whenever it attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token, sacrifice it at the next end step. Whenever creature token you control leaves the battlefield, draw a card if it was attacking, otherwise each opponent loses 1 life. So when you mobilize there, if your opponent blocks it and kills it, you're drawing a card. If they don't, each opponent is losing a life there. If you have something like the Master Multiplied there, you're not going to be sacrificing the creature token there, and you can keep on getting them out there. So you're going to want to be attacking with Zurgo a whole lot, getting a whole lot of creature tokens there. So his one there definitely focuses on, I want a lot of creature tokens. Nariv, Crackling Vanguard, 2, a red, a white, and a black for a legendary Spirit Dragon 4/4 with Flying and Death Touch. When Nariv enters, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, already creating tokens. Whenever it attacks, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens you control. During any turn you attacked with a commander, you may play those cards there. Okay, so Nariv wants you to get different types of creature tokens. No, it's not creature tokens, it's any tokens. So get different type of named tokens there, and you can cast cards in exile whenever you attack with a commander. Nariv definitely feels like you don't want it to be the commander sometimes there, because you have to attack with it in order for it to activate. But maybe you do, and you're just trying to get through real quick there. I don't know. It definitely feels like Zurgo is more of the helmsman on this one here. Though, I guess, he is the face card of it. Inox Strike Leader, 1 and a white for a 2/2 Dog Warrior. Whenever you attack with this creature and or your commander, for each opponent, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking that player. Sack this creature. Creature token you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Giving them indestructible is fine, but you kind of want them to die in this deck here. So, it gives you the options. Iron Will Forger, 3 and a white for Orc Artificer with Lieutenant. Beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control your commander, target non-legendary creature you control gains Myriad until end of turn there. Again, this goes really well with Master Multiplied there. Those Myriad creatures don't leave. Will of the Mardu, the white one. Just funny that they are the white one. 2 and a white there for choose 1. If you control a commander, you can cast both. Create a number of 1/1 red warrior creature tokens equal to the number of creatures target player control. So it can be you, it can be someone else. You can double up your creatures, or you can combat an opponent there if they have the most. Will of the Mardu deals damage to target creature equal to the number of creatures you control. Again, get a whole lot of them out there, and then you're just like, yeah, I killed one of the things that I don't like. Bone Devourer, 3 and a black for a 2/2 dragon with flying and flash. This creature enters with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of creatures that died this turn. When this creature dies, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it there. Okay, so, you put it out there after a board wipe, or after you go in expecting a lot of your stuff to die, it becomes really big, and then when it dies, you draw a bunch of cards there. Could really see that going well with an Aristocrats style deck of, you get this big guy, and when it does die, you get a bunch of cards. Within range, 3 and a black enchantment. When this enters, create 2 1/1 red warrior creature tokens. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures attacking them there. Okay. Decent, get a wide board there, attacking out to people, they're losing some extra life. Gold Lust Triad, I think this is another one of the big ones there. 4 and a red for a 4/3 dragon with flying that has Myriad, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Okay, and it creates 2 copies of itself there, which actually, I guess, With Myriad, that worked a lot with Narave because in all of those are tokens with unique names on them there. So trying to get a lot of treasure tokens to make more things. I like that. Infantry shield 2 and a red for equipment. Equipped creature has menace and mobilize X, where X is its power. You definitely want something that has a lot of power with this one there. So if you have it on Nareve, you're creating 4 of the warriors. If you have it on Zergo, he essentially will have mobilize 4, and those guys will leave and they'll either take 4 damage and you draw 4 cards, or somewhere in between for both. I like it. Redoubled Storm Singer 2 and a red Orc Wizard 3/3 with first strike. Whenever this creature attacks, for each creature token you control that entered this turn, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that token. The beginning of the next end step, sacrifice those tokens. So, you know, when it attacks, you're going to order it so that it activates last. So when all of your mobilize effects and everything that helped get creatures to enter it there, you're essentially making almost like a form of Myriad of them. It's just, it doubles them instead of, you know, creating exactly them. Cards that are already there, Adeline there, its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, and in attacks you create some extra creature tokens there. So more go wide. Angel of Innovations there. Other creatures get +1/+1, which helps out with that there. Creating servos for unique creatures. Commander's Insignia there. You know, every time you cast your commander, all of your creatures get bigger there. Divine Visitations, creating 4/4s. So if you want to, you know, get bigger tokens there, there's angels, and it's not a May effect, so, you know, you're creating just angels instead, creating birds, more types of creature tokens there, green-white creature tokens, but all creatures you control gain indestructible there. So you can play it as just a 2-white, everything is indestructible there, or you can create some extra creature tokens. Herald of Bladeholt there. Each other creature gets +1/+0, and you also get more creature tokens. So a lot of this here, all non-token creatures get destroyed there. Myriad gives things indestructible. Resurrect small things there. Mana value 3 or less enters, you draw a card there. So that's every single token there. Creature token leaves, you put +1/+1 on it, and you can create more by removing some, making some rats, sacking creatures, you know, those, the ones that you don't need to make things smaller. You know, getting rid of a whole lot of things there targeted there. Gix will allow you to draw some cards there. You can also discard to, you know, play your opponent's stuff there. Mindblade Render, I don't know this one. 1 and a black for a 1/3 Azra Warrior. Whenever your opponents are dealt combat damage with any of that damage, if any of that damage was dealt by a warrior, draw a card and lose 1 life. So a little bit of card draw. A good creature token there. Yeheni, sacrificing creatures, give them indestructible. Creature dies, he gets more powerful. Grenzo, goading things and giving you, you know, impulse draw, essentially. Legion War Boss, mentors things, gives you goblins. Gives your creature tokens haste and a little bit more power, making some goblins, sacrificing goblins deal damage, creating more tokens there, giving all creatures +1/+1. Sorry, creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn, +1/+1 on up to 1 target creature token you control. So it specifically targets creature tokens there, and everything gains death touch. Yikes. Until end of turn, if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many are created instead, doubling up on the ones that enter there, and that helps out with Myriad. You know, Blade of Selves, Myriad. This creates a 10/10, mirror tokens, a little bit of ramp there, and then some lands for mana fixing, creating tokens. all creatures get +1/+0, mana fixing, 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 mana fixing. Creatures you control get Death Touch and Lifelink there. I don't know, it's a hideaway. Create tokens, protect something, get rid of those tokens and draw some cards. All of these ones here. Create a bunch of creature tokens and you're making them big. Creates creature tokens, creature tokens, creature tokens, but it's also targeted removal. Targeted removal. Create creature tokens, and then whenever those things die, you know, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Targeted removal there, drawing a card there. So, Viscera Seer is a good sack outlet. Removal, tokens, removing things there, create tokens there. Okay, so this definitely feels like an aristocrats deck there, where you're making a whole lot of tokens and you can protect your things, but there's a lot of outlets there for you to sacrifice a bunch of these. So you could, you know, make them there, and, you know, it's instead of waiting for the very end, you're just like, oh, you know, like for the Zergo one, you're like, oh, you know, here's the Zergo one, and it's going to die anyway there. So instead of just letting it die at end of the turn, sacrifice it to Viscera Seer and scry one instead there. So, yeah, I like this one a lot. It's very aristocrat-like. There's definitely some upgrades that I would do for it. Like I said, you could put the Master Multiplied to keep all of your myriad creatures around there, so you get some extras. And, you know, they definitely have a lot of different types of creature tokens in there for Nareev to be able to work off of that there as well. So overall, I think it's a good one there. So last up, we're going to be looking at the Teamer deck and seeing what that has to offer. The essentially the big boy deck, in the sense of big boys are like, I want to make, you know, the big power creatures, whereas Abzan is like, I want the big toughness creatures. I mean, you can kind of see that with Ureni on the top here being a 7/7, so. Alrighty. Ureni of the Unwritten. Expensive, 4 green, blue, and red for a 7/7 legendary spirit dragon with flying trample. And whenever Ureni enters or attacks, look at the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a dragon creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you're not getting rid of any of your cards there, but you're just putting a dragon card that you want onto the field there. You know, that's a powerful effect if you've got, you know, some big dragons in there. And it's also blue, red, and green, so you could throw this into that other spirit dragon from, you know, the D&D, I think from the Baldur's Gate one, maybe, or is it from Commander Legends there? The spirit dragon, it's like a 2/5, that's really good as well there. But yeah, like, that seems to go well with it there. But this one there, it looks like for them at least, you need a lot of dragons in here. So this is not a dragon, so we'll see what Eshki is like. Eshki, Teamer's Roar, green, blue, and red for a legendary human warrior 2/2. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Eshki. If that spell's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. If that spell's power is 6 or greater, Eshki deals damage equal to Eshki's power to each opponent. So you cast the spell, you get a +2/+2 on her. If its power is 4 or greater, you draw a card, and if it's 6 or greater, you deal damage there. None of those are restrictive in that if it's a creature, no matter what its power is, it gets a +1/+1. If it's 4 or greater, and that is equivalent to 6 or greater, you get to draw that card. And if it's 6 or greater, she also deals some extra damage to each opponent there, so you're not singling one person out. All right, Deceptive Frostkite, 2 mana for a 1/1 dragon with flying. You may have this enter as a copy of a creature you control with power 4 or greater, except it's a dragon in addition to its other types. So, copying your thing, but it has to be large. Hammerhead Tyrant, 4 and 2 blue for a 6/6 dragon with flying. Whenever you cast a spell, return up to 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that spell's mana value to its owner's hand. Yikes. So you cast something, and you're like, yeah, you know that thing that you had down there? It's going back to your hand. That's a little bit toxic there. Get something that doesn't have an ETB trigger, something that's impactful for them, and you're saying no, get out. Yeah, that's tough. Will of the Teamer, oh, it's a bit expensive. 5 and a blue for a sorcery. If you control a commander, you can choose both, otherwise choose one. Create a token that's a copy of target permanent, except it's a 4/4 dragon with flying in addition. So, copy the best thing that you want with it there. And it's target, so it's not just your things. Target player draws cards equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. So if it's ready, that's 7. So, and it's a lot of stuff that says, they want power 6 or greater. So hopefully it's, they've got some stuff in there. So you're drawing a bunch of cards. Parapet Thrasher, 2 and 2 red for a 4/3 dragon with flying. Whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage to opponent, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. So ideally you deal combat damage with 3 dragons. Then you get to do each of them there. Destroy target artifact that opponent controls. That's nice. Creature deals 4 damage to each other opponent there. That's also nice. Exile top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Impulse draw. All of those nice. Just if you're able to get in with the 3 dragons there, get all of them. That's very good value. Thundermane Dragon, kind of looking a little bit like Niv Mizzet there. 3 and a red for a 4/4 dragon with flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creatures, spells with power 4 or greater from the top of your library. If you cast a creature spell this way, it gains haste. That's nice. There, surprise them with whatever you have next. Zenith Festival, X and 2 red for a sorcery. Exile at the top X cards of your library. You may play them until the end of your next turn. Or Harmonize, X and 2 red. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonize cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce the cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power, then exile the spell. So it's like Convoke, except you can only do it with one thing, and you reduce it by just the power of it there. Okay, I like that. I like that quite a bit there, Get a lot of the stuff there, but, if you spend a lot of mana on the things there, it's until your next turn, so you could do it on your next turn as well, but everybody sees what you got. Become the Avalanche, 4 and 2 green for sorcery. Draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Then creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Doing a little bit of kind of like a, what do you call it there? Craterhoof Behemoth, which they, have out in Standard and Dragonstorm right now. And, drawing a bunch of extra cards. That seems nice. Broodcolor Scourge, 5 and 2 green. For a 5/7 dragon with flying, whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of damage from your hand onto the battlefield. Another hurty one there. Kega, when Kega dies, gain control of target creature. Yep. That's a little bit more aristocraty, so I'm not sure how I feel about that one being there. Reflections of Litjara, 4 and a blue for enchantment. When this enters, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of a chosen type, copy that spell. Yikes. So you say dragon, and you cast that dragon. You get a second one of it there. That's pretty good. That's she. Burning Sky. When When it dies, you impulse draw or you create some treasures, blasphemous acts, board wipe, a little bit target removal, you know, make this into a big dragon there, you know, creating some treasure tokens there, dealing some more damage, you know, worrying about dragon spells dealing damage. This is an interesting one there. When it enters, you may put a commander you own from the command zone onto the battlefield. It gains haste and then return to there at the end of the step there. Yep. Leyline Tyrant, 2 and 2 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying. You don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. When this creature dies, you may pay any amount of red. When you do, it deals that much damage. Okay, so bring up a lot of red and make it die or something like that. Nesting Dragon. They're getting some more dragons out there. This is the one that, you know, it's been reprinted the first time, I think, there. Nogi, Draco, Zealot, 1 and 2 red for a legendary Kobold Shaman. 3/3 dragon spells, cast 1 less. When it attacks, if you control 3 or more dragons, it becomes a dragon with base power 5/5 and gains flying. Gain control of, let's see here. When this creature enters, choose a target, human or artifact an opponent controls for as long as this creature remains on the battlefield. Gain control of that permanent. It loses all abilities, can't attack or block there. So just almost kind of like a targeted removal. Scourge of the Throne there, you know, get the dethrone there. Whenever this creature attacks for the first time, if it's attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most, untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase there, some more damage. So it's seeming like there's just a lot of damage that's trying to get out and just using a whole lot of dragons as shapeshifter changeling, so it's technically a dragon there. So it seems pretty clear that that's what it is. You know, it's a lot of dragons that either create more dragons, deal more damage, and this one here, you know, getting some extra mana there, or you know, having things fight things to get rid of it there. Savala Stampede, 4 and 2 green for sorcery. Starting with you, each player votes for wild or free. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature for each wild vote. Put those creatures onto the battlefield and shuffle, and you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield for each free vote. Okay. Tarka gives things double strike, deals damage. Harbinger of the Hunt deals damage. Sarkhan reduces the cost of dragons there, and you can have it become a copy of a dragon there. Give things haste, drawing cards, you know, mana, destroying things, and then a lot of lands for mana fixing there, you know, spending things to cast dragons there, make something really big with trample there. So, I mean, a lot. It really seems that this is a straightforward, punchy type of deck there. Dragon Tempest, 1 and a red enchantment. When a creature you control with flying enters, it gains haste until end of turn. Again, basically every dragon has flying, so it just has haste. Whenever dragon enters, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of dragons you control. Okay. Breaching Dragonstorm, 4 and a red for enchantment. When this enters, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 8 or less. If you don't, put it into your hand. When a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. Interesting. Temple of the Dragon Queen. As it enters, you may reveal a dragon from your hand. It enters tapped. Unless you reveal a dragon. As it enters, choose a color and a mana of that color. Yep, so it definitely feels like the big thing of this here, it has some mana ramp there, but overall it's just we want to cast big things and potentially try to reduce the cost of it there. It seems like the most straightforward out of all of the decks there. I think that overall the Dimir deck is probably the one that I'm the least interested in, though I still think it's good. I know my friend is very interested in the Mardu deck. the teamer is a little bit too straightforward for me, so I kind of like the copy effects of the Jeskai one and kind of like the defensiveness of the Abzan one as well. But we also have these packs as well. So we're just going to open those up real quick here in just a so we're just going to open those up real quick just to see what the extra ones are. Shouldn't be anything too amazing in them though, just because they're the little sample packs. So more where that came from there. Okay, so we've got Omens. I guess that's kind of a new one there. Just a common card with the other one there. And looks like we got a Sidisi with a little bit of the, what do you call it there? The Sultai marking in the back there. So Sidisi, Region of the Mire there. 1 NA black for a legendary zombie snake warlock 1/3 with tap. Sacrifice a creature you control with mana value X other than Sidisi. Return target creature card with mana value X+1 from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery there. You know, depending on what you've got, you know, that could be impactful if you have consistent regeneration or you're getting a lot of cards milled. So yeah, it really works a lot with the mill effects that they have in that particular commander deck or just in Sultai in general. There's a lot of cards in graveyards for Sultai. So ones that we have here, Whirlwind Broodstorm there, doing a little bit of blue and green, while this one is just pure blue there. And the other card that we're going to get there is Dragonback Assault, actually a mythic there. Not sure if it's going to be super amazing, but also have that teamer design in the background. So 3 green, blue, and red for an enchantment with whenever this enchantment enters, it deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker there. A little bit of a mini board wipe there just to deal some damage. And landfall, whenever a land you control enters, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying there. So, you know, you are getting a little bit of that extra, hey, you know, if you've got the 4, you make another, not 4. If you have land enter, you get your big stompy guy there. A little bit expensive for just dealing 3 to each creature and planeswalker there, so I'm not exactly sure how I would feel about it there. Enchantments are not the easiest to get rid of there, so, you know, you just make your landfalls and you get your dragons. Seems decent. Borderborn Dragon there, just colorless there. Surveilling for it there and getting a land here. Dalkovan Encampment. When this enters, tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain there. This is very Mardu coded since it taps for white. And 2 and a white whenever you attack this turn. Create a 1/1 red warrior creature. Create 2 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. Sack them at the beginning of the next end step. Seems really good with the Zergo commander there. You're not keeping them there, so you have to essentially sacrifice up 4 mana because you have to do 3 and then tap this one in and of itself to get 2 1/1s essentially that are attacking. So if you don't have mana to spend it on, that's fine. Or, you know, if you are with Zergo strategy, it seems fine. Karakik Guardian, another teamer card there, and the one that we have here, Glacierwood Siege. Oh, another siege there. I remember those. 1, a green, and a blue for an enchantment. If this enters, choose either Teamer or Sultai. If you choose Teamer, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, target player mills 4 Sultai. You may play lands from your graveyard. Interesting. I don't see how that one is Teamer. Both of them seem Sultai. I don't know if this one was correctly done. Like, this definitely feels like the Sultai commander deck, but then it's just like milling cards. I don't know. It seems like, oh, you know, if you wanted to do that sort of effect when you cast an instant or sorcery, it doesn't feel like it goes great with Jeskai, but you're casting more instant and sorceries with that one there, and or, you know, you're casting your instant and sorcery, getting more cards in your graveyard with your Sultai. So, I don't know. Seems a little bit weird for that one to be there. And for our last one here, we're going to get the Mega Ultra Uber Ugin. Haha. A little bit of Death Gorger, just pure black there. And Nature's Rhythm, getting a little bit more of that Teamer action there. 2 green and a X for a sorcery with search your library for a creature with mana value X or less. Put it on the battlefield and shuffle, and you can also harmonize with it there as well. Okay. I don't think any of those are super amazing, but it is a bit surprising to get a mythic, though it's probably not a super expensive mythic anyway. However, you know, thanks for coming in, just kind of enjoying seeing what's coming in with the Dragonstorm Commander decks there, and just sort of a brief overview of them there. And I hope that you come back on another one there, where I will be looking at opening up some Dragonstorm booster boxes of themselves when they come in. So until then, I hope that you have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, you take care of yourself, and until then, see you later.